Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections here for Tuesday, November 19th. Before we get into today's play of the day, quick recap of what happened yesterday. We picked up a nice free winner with Utah State minus 19, which was available on DraftKings at minus 110. It was close for the first half, give or take. Then Utah State blew it open and ended up winning the game by 32. So no real sweat once the second half began, as Utah State immediately just used their size advantage to dominate. TSA continued to shoot terribly from the floor, as they had for the entire season up to this point. And Utah State, somehow they're in the top 15 and they're still getting disrespected. This team is really good, and people don't know how good they are just because of the conference they play in. Just overall, the team isn't even fully healthy. Once they get their big man Kita back, watch out. This team easily can make a Final Four if everything lines up and everyone's healthy. This team's really that good, and I would keep an eye on them moving forward, especially in their weaker conference. I think they will end up dominating, and I think they should win the conference championship. So this team is sky's the limit for Utah State if you just actually watch them play. This team is just lengthy. They can shoot. They get to the foul line. They rim protect pretty well. I just think this is a really solid team, and I would keep that in mind moving forward. But in terms of the play of the day, of course, we're going to be sticking with college basketball, as it has been quite profitable for us so far in the young season. And in terms of the play of the day, it will be on a matchup between the Citadel and Southeast Missouri State. And I think that as all of you clicked on the video and you saw the title, you knew exactly where I was going for the play of the day. And you would be right, as we will be taking the over 166, which is available on DraftKings at minus 109. This line opened up at minus 161.5. It's been bet up to roughly 166.5, but DraftKings still has it available at 166 with more juice towards the under than the over. So I'm a bit confused by DraftKings line placement there, but overall I'm going to take it, and I will take the over 166 at minus 109 on DraftKings. In terms of why, I've mentioned before in the beginning of the season, the Citadel gives away more money than the U.S. Welfare Service, as if you just simply blindly bet the over, you win pretty much every time they play. In terms of this total, all three games of Citadel, actually two out of the three games have gone over this posted total. And in terms of Southeast Missouri, they just don't play any defense either. The Citadel is giving up 91 points per game, and they're scoring 78.3 points per game. But in terms of their points for the Citadel, they've been going up against some slow-paced teams. They played against Asheville, who was one of the slowest paces in the league. They went up against Campbell, who was one of the slowest paces in the nation. And they scored 70-something points respectively against them, but they still gave up at least 87. So defense has been playing terribly against slow-paced teams, but it has definitely impacted their offense and just the pace that they want to go at. But in terms of when they actually played a fast-paced team in Georgia, some people might think is a little bit overrated this year. I'm one of those people. But they're still extremely talented. And you'd think the Citadel would probably struggle to score offensively against them if they struggled against Campbell and Asheville. But they scored 86 points. So I think as long as this game is at the pace that it should be played at, I think the Citadel should score at least 80. And I see Missouri State could score at least 90 or honestly 85 in this game. I think this game will be close. And I think that both teams should score at least 83 points, give or take. So I think this will go over the posted total. Southeast Missouri State's giving up 80.5 points per game. Citadel's giving up 91. I just think that this total's too low. I think anytime the Citadel play and the total's below 170, I think you honestly have to bet the over. The Citadel's been at the top of the pace or offensive tempo category for many years, and once again, they are currently in the top 10. Meanwhile, Southeast Missouri's in the middle of the pack, so they are significantly better than Campbell and Asheville, and I think that they will be able to push the pace equally in this game, and I think you should see an absolute track meet. So the play of the day will be on the over 166 between the Citadel and Southeast Missouri State, which is available on DraftKings at minus 109. Now, in terms of some of my other leans, I thought about giving this out as play of the day, but I ended up kind of missing some line movement on it. I still like it, though, at the number that I currently have it at. DraftKings currently has Gonzaga against UT Arlington. Gonzaga at minus 23.5. I would just take Gonzaga again. Personally, I've already put Gonzaga and the Citadel over in a parlay last night, but I didn't have time to make a video, so now I do. In terms of the line itself, UT Arlington, they're 2-2. They've been okay, I guess. I mean, one game that they've played was against just a non-D1 team, so I'm not really going to even count that. But in terms of the actual strength of schedule, they played at Oregon in their last game, and they lost by 20. Gonzaga's won every single game they've had this season by at least 31. And I think everybody knows, by at least 30, I should say. They beat Texas A&M on the road by 30 in their last game. I think everybody knows that Gonzaga is just the better overall team in this spot. Gonzaga's going to do what they always do. They're going to beat up on the weaker teams. People are going to think they're really good. They're going to lose one game in conference play. They're going to fall. And then at some point, they're probably going to collapse in the tournament. It's the same thing every year. People expect something different. But Gonzaga in November and early December tends to just print money, as Gonzaga wins every game by about 30. So there's a reason why this line has climbed from roughly 22.5 to 24. It's still available at 23.5 at DraftKings, though, so I would personally grab that right now, as this line probably should close at 24, 25, close to tip-off. But UT Arlington currently is averaging 69.3 points per game, and they're allowing 64 points per game. They have one person who's averaging double digits in points. Gonzaga's averaging over 95 points per game. I don't think Arlington's going to score. I think Arlington's going to be held to roughly 50 points, and I think Gonzaga's probably going to drop at least 85 on them. I think Gonzaga's going to win this game by about 30, 35. Gonzaga's better on the boards. UT Arlington shooting 36.7% from the floor. Gonzaga shooting 56.6% from the floor. I think this is a huge mismatch. Gonzaga's got the size, they've got the shooting, and they have the better coaching staff. I got to take Gonzaga. I think there's going to be no mercy. Pedal to the metal, and Gonzaga will probably win this game by 30. So that'll be my first lean on the day. I'd give it out as play of the day, but at the same point, I like the number. I got more. But 23.5, I just think Gonzaga's going to roll. So I would probably make that a play of the day 1A. I already bet it personally, but for the sake of the play of the day, I'll just give out the Citadel. But in terms of what else I like on today's card, looking at the rest of the college basketball card here, those are the main two games I liked. I also like the under in the Liberty-Navy game, but I ended up getting that number personally at 121 last night. It's all the way down to 118. It's very low. I don't really think it's low enough. I've mentioned how much I love Liberty in the past. Liberty is one of the slowest paces. They try to be a Virginia Junior type of team. And Navy's also played at a very slow pace. This team isn't great at scoring. And I think both teams will take up at least 25 seconds on the shot clock pretty much every possession. Liberty doesn't like to push pace. Liberty likes to slow it down. Navy likes to slow it down also. I think 118 is very low, but I don't think there's any way that Navy's going to get into the 60s in this game. I think Navy's going to finish with either 40-something or 50-something, and I think Liberty should finish in the low 60s, high 50s. So for me, I'll lean to the under anyway. I think this number is low, but I think it's not low enough. Lean to the under in the Liberty-Navy game. If you're a little bit worried about the free throws at the end of a game potentially, then you could take the first half under. That's kind of how I get around with worried about late game free throws and scramble points. If you just take the first half unders, because of the fact that the clock continues to run no matter what, so even on made baskets in the last minute, you don't really have to worry about it. And B is that teams, even when they're down, will hold for one for the last shot in the final 30 seconds instead of trying to go quickly, foul, and go again and foul. It's chaotic, but if you take the first half and you just bet the under, there's two pros to that, but the markets always factor that in, so keep that in mind. But the play of the day is on the Citadel over 166, and my favorite lean, and I thought about giving this out as play of the day, but I ended up not doing it, was Gonzaga minus 23.5. Both of those are available on DraftKings, and those are my favorite plays. So now in terms of switching gears to the other sports on today's card, matchup here between Eastern Michigan and Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois is currently at -5, over-unders at 56.5. I'll lean to Northern Illinois. I actually had them beating Toledo last week on one of the videos in one of my leans. I like this Northern Illinois team. This team ended up winning a conference title game last year. The roster has been a little bit inconsistent so far this season, but Eastern Michigan hasn't been great either. They were on a pretty decent losing streak before they beat Akron, and I think anybody's local high school could beat Akron so far this season. But overall, Northern Illinois, I think they're a better overall team. I think they'll win the game outright. I think they'll win by 7 points or so, and I think they'll cover the -5. So for me, lean to Northern Illinois on that one. And between Ohio and Bowling Green, I actually like the under 56.5. Kind of risky taking the under in a Maction game in the middle of the week, but Bowling Green is just not a good offensive team. I mean, they look decently offensively a couple of times this season, particularly against Kent State, but as a whole, I just don't really think that Bowling Green is good enough offensively to handle Ohio. Plus, if you've watched Ohio, yes, they have some talent, but as a whole, this team takes a ton of time just snapping the ball. They usually take 30-something seconds off the play clock. They're going to be slowing this game to a crawl. And I actually misspoke. I didn't mean against Kent State for Bowling Green. I meant against Akron. But overall, Bowling Green's offense is not much to write home about. Ohio, I don't think they're going to want to run up the score. A couple of recent meetings and all the trends support the under. I know money's coming on the over so far for this game, but I've seen Ohio play. They play really slowly, and Bowling Green's just a mess. I'll lean to the under 56. I think Ohio will blow this game open. I think they'll cover the 20.5, but I think they'll win this game somewhere in the realm of 34-10. I think it's going to be a pretty low scoring. Lean to the under in that one. Now, in terms of the NBA, switching gears there. Yeah, in terms of what I actually like in the card today, not really much. I'll lean to the Kings. The Suns got embarrassed last night by the Celtics, and they're playing the second end of a back-to-back. Kings, I know that that Fox is out, but the Kings have actually played pretty good basketball over the last 2 weeks or so. I'm kind of impressed with what I've seen. It's also a revenge spot for the Kings. The first matchup between these two teams resulted in a 30-something point blowout for the Suns. I think the Kings will bounce back at home. I think the Kings should win this game outright. I think they'll win by 5 points or so. Lean to the Kings on that one. Other than that, you have Portland versus New Orleans. Both teams are pretty bad. Lean to the Pelicans because the Trailblazers played last night and they got embarrassed by the Rockets. Pelicans are at plus 102 on DraftKings. I'll take the underdog money at home. I just don't like the Trailblazers at all. I don't think they're any good. And if you watch them play, then you'll probably agree with me. If you haven't watched them play, you're going to think that Lillard and McCollum still do stuff. Lillard's great. Whiteside's been okay. McCollum's very solid, but I personally think he's overrated because his style isn't really conducive to today's NBA. Takes a lot of long-range two-pointers, most inefficient shot in basketball. I don't really know. I don't really see it. But overall, lean to the Pelicans there. And in terms of the Grizzlies and the Warriors, I'll lean to the Grizzlies. Are the Grizzlies a great team? No. Are they as bad as the Warriors? No. I think the Warriors, now that D'Angelo is also out, are pretty much useless, and I think the Grizzlies should win this game by double digits. Lean to the Grizzlies on that one. But the play of the day will be on the Citadel over 166, which is available on DraftKings at minus 109. Other than that, though, that's going to be this installment of Scott's Selections here for Tuesday, November 19th. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.